It's another episode of Behind the Book, this week live from the Aria Sportsbook, beautiful Aria Sportsbook, here on the Las Vegas Strip. Gil Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network, and the bona fide star of the show each and every week. He brings the pretty, he brings the funny. It's the Vice President of Race and Sports at MGM Resorts International, Jay Root. Hello, Jay.
Yeah, live from your living room.
We are.
Where we are.
We might as well be doing it from my living room. This is where I watch most of my sports, really from a chair like right over there.
Yeah.
I love it here. We'll talk
Got a couple of nice dimples in it where you sit for hours upon hours.
It's one word to use, yes. We'll talk pro football today. We'll talk maybe a little college football bowl season. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, it is upon us.
It is upon us. I got some thoughts. All of that on Behind the Book today from the Aria, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book, live from the Aria here on the Las Vegas Strip. It's all brought to you by the Play MGM app. Gil Alexander from VSiN, Jay Rood from MGM. Good weekend of football. Week 14 in the National Football League.
You're talking about last weekend? Last weekend was a good weekend of football for us,
week
too.
13.
Yes, that was a good weekend.
Yeah.
And we have a nice slate of games that are going to give us the opportunity to have another good week. Give the players an opportunity to have a good week. I mean, this looks like a week. If you're going to parlay, this is the week to parlay.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Don't do that. Don't listen to them.
4-teamers look like they just flying off the board this week.
No, do not do that. What was the big decision for you before we get to week 14? What was the biggest decision for you last week? Was it Pittsburgh?
Well, I mean, we had a really big decision on Thursday. We needed the Cowboys.
Yeah.
You know, if we could have gotten the win but no cover by the Saints, that would have been an absolute out of the park. But we had a big game. We had a big decision on the Falcons game. I think a few of the sharps were kind of on the Falcons a little bit.
I was indeed.
Some public on the Falcons as well. So Ravens coming out and playing well was really good for us. And then, Pittsburgh, that game was a pretty strong game for us. A lot of people thought Pittsburgh at home, that's the trend. They play well at home. They got back pretty heavily in that
big comeback for the Chargers, down 16 in that game. Speaking of the Ravens, which you just mentioned, the Ravens are traveling to take on the Chiefs here in Week 14. Chiefs favored by 7. The total is 52.5. Chiefs coming off a win over Oakland. They did not cover, though. They were favored by 14, won by 7, their first game without Kareem Hunt. The Ravens with Lamar Jackson. I keep joking on the air that John Harbaugh is saying to Joe Flacco, your hip still hurts, Joe. No, really, coach, it doesn't. No, seriously, it still hurts. I think everybody's waiting for Lamar Jackson to have a bad game. It has not happened yet. Right now, Chiefs again favored by 7.
Yeah, I think last week we had a little bit of play on the Chiefs, not what we'd been seeing, obviously. I think a little people kind of hit the pause button to see what they would look like without last year's leading rusher. So, I think we're going to get right back on the wagon. They scored plenty of points.
Yeah.
Raiders did what Raiders do. They shoot themselves in the foot, it seems like, on a weekly basis. But they are playing better. They're not getting just straight smoked every week. So, competitive for us. That was good for us. That was keep things close because, we don't want one team really like a team to go on against the spread streak or opposite, one that can't cover the spread, long streak too. So this particular game, I think we're going to need the Chiefs at home. They're going to get back fairly heavily until it gets to a 7.5 spot.
Ravens held the Falcons to 131 total yards of offense last week. That is the fewest amount of yards the Falcons have gained in any game in 2 decades, since 1999. In fact, the Ravens held the Falcons to 44 yards in the second half alone. It's incredible. The number is 7 here.
Chiefs ain't the Falcons.
They're not. But at 7, home team favored by 7, this screams teaser, Jay, for, again, home team by 7. Please, again, our plea to you, do not mess with teaser prices, please.
Oh, okay. Well, we put them where,
Can we get a promise from you on that?
I think they're equitable. The only thing I still have a concern with is if you lose the one half of your teaser and you push on the other half, get a refund. I'm not a fan of that.
Sounds fair to me. Yeah. Chiefs, 7-point favorites hosting the Ravens on Sunday morning. It's Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app. Back on Behind the Book from Aria here in a beautiful Las Vegas. By the way, it's not the Aria, it's just Aria, right?
Yeah, Aria.
We don't use the word the here at MGM. It's Gil Alexander, it's Jay Rude.
Well, the Mirage.
That's the only one, though, really, right?
Borgata.
The Borgata. Right, no the there, too.
Right.
Getting back to the point, though, this is a beautiful place to watch a game. It is the most living room feels sportsbook in town. I swear by it. Love it here at Aria.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would make it better is if the pizza joint next door would serve it cold, like in your real house.
It's just like 20 steps over, though.
Yeah.
Talking about $5.50 pizza, which is so good.
Outstanding.
Oh, so good. The
Part of the
cheese
reason
pizza.
why I look like this.
Bring in the pretty. Jay Rude, Vice President.
Bring in the cheeks.
Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International. Philadelphia is at Dallas.
Yes.
An NFC East clash. First time these two teams met, Dallas went into Philly as a dog, pretty sizable dog, beat Philly outright. Right now, Dallas has a one-game lead in the NFC East over both the Eagles and the Redskins. If Dallas wins this game, in other words, they would have not only a 2-game lead in the standings over Philly, they'd also have the tiebreaker with just 3 games left. So basically, this would be it, for all intents and purposes, we're the defending Super Bowl champions. Is Dallas as public a team as they always have been?
Yeah. Especially during on this run, we've been getting quite a bit of play to Dallas. We had, they ran into a buzzsaw of a betting opportunity against the Saints last week, and we were getting a ton of money on Saints, but there was an awful lot of support on Dallas for that game. So there was good two-way action on that game, which you always like to see. It was obviously lopsided long towards the Saints for us, and the Cowboys did us a solid and got there, and we did really well in that game. This game is going to be interesting because I think we're going to need Philadelphia really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because I think the general public has given up on them.
Despite beating the Redskins and
Well,
Mark Sanchez.
yeah.
No one reads into that too much.
No, I mean, hopefully you could show up and do that with whatever residual is left in Philly. I mean, Frank Wright looks like he's the missing component because as soon as he left, they just don't seem to be clicking anymore, so something's wrong
Well,
here.
on their way to the Super Bowl title last year, the biggest single stat that went Philly's way is third down conversion rate on offense. It just so happens that Indianapolis is week after week this year, coached by Frank Reich, the best or second best third down conversion rate team on offense in the NFL this year. So you're right about that. Dallas, when last we saw them, what you're alluding to, Thursday night, extra rest here, where just out of control, out of nowhere, upset the New Orleans Saints. Like, I don't know what that Saints team was, but that's everybody's last impression of Dallas. So this at 3.5, it's kind of begging to get to 4. Do you think it'd be 4 by game time?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to, there's no way this game could have opened 3. I mean, we would have been just one-sided at that point. 3.5, I think we're still going to be fairly one-sided because I don't think, with Dallas's defense, the way they performed last Thursday, and as bad as the Eagles' offense looks, I think a lot of people think that 3.5 is a fairly easy number for them to possibly cover. But you got to remember, it's a division game.
Yep.
The Eagles' backs are against the wall. I mean, if this was a golf match, this could be 3-2.
Yeah.
Right? And they would be done.
They would be done 3-2, exactly.
We'll see. I mean, we're spots in needing defending Super Bowl champs to win, to cover 3.5. But I think that's going to be a big game for us.
All right. Looks like the books may need the Eagles. Dallas favored by 3.5. Low total, by the way, in this day and age in the NFL. Just 43.5. Cowboys and the Eagles. Eagles, the underdogs here by 3.5. We're live from the Aria, brought to you by the Play MGM app. It's behind the book. Back on Behind the Book, brought to you by the Play MGM app. It's Gil Alexander and Jay Rude, live from the Aria here in Las Vegas. College bowl season is upon us, Jay. 40 bowls, and we're not even talking about the playoffs yet, the 4 teams that make the playoffs. This is unlike any other thing in a handicapping sports betting calendar. There's no comp for this. Handicappers have to really assess motivation in some of these games. Is a college football team, are they upset because they've settled for a lesser bowl than they thought they might get to? Are coaches leaving and are prematurely mentally checked out? Maybe they're physically checked out already as well. Now we have this extra layer that's a recent trend of players just bouncing, saying, you know what? I've given you all I needed to over the years, School. I'm not going to risk my NFL career by risking an injury in this bowl game. So it's tough from a handicapping standpoint. From your side of the counter, how do you view it as a profitable time of year, generally speaking?
Yeah, I mean, bowl season for us is generally fairly profitable. The only thing that I don't like is it's gotten so stretched out. I think more people would like the opportunity to be able to have, like, weekends of bowls, right? Like back in the day when the New Year's you had like 10 bowl games in 2 days. It was great, Whereas now, most you get is 4 maybe here and there. If you had 2 weekends where you let up and you had like 6, 7 games on a Saturday, it'd be outstanding, I think. But, I think the bowl season provides opportunity, like you said, for the dog to be a little more alive in this because of if you're leaving school because you're a great player, you probably were on a pretty good team.
Yeah.
That team might, like you said, might not have the right motivation going into that bowl because the 7, 8, 9, ones that thought they might have should have got in the playoffs are now playing a different one. But also the teams that do get there, the Central Floridas of the world, they're good.
Yeah.
And they're looking to prove they're real good. And you give them some points, or you give a team that's not on anyone's radar really, coming out of an obscure conference, and you can find some value. A lot of people start to play these favorites because they're the brand names in these bowls, and you can get burned pretty easily on that.
That's right. Do your homework on who's
and power
playing.
Numbers sometimes don't work.
That's right.
When players are gone, coaches leave, you got to start from almost a brand new baseline.
Yeah, you mentioned UCF. They'll take on LSU. Greedy Williams already said, I'm not playing for LSU. Georgia, for instance, and Texas, the last of all the bowl games. Will Georgia show up? Historically, Georgia has no matter, but will they be disappointed playing outside of the college football playoff? We'll get into, not all the bowl games, but we'll get into the marquee ones as we do Behind the Books in subsequent weeks. Behind the Book, bowl season upon us. Just on the cusp of it. We look forward to it right here from the ARIA, brought to you by the Play MGM app. It is Behind the Book. It's brought to you by the Play MGM app. It's Gil Alexander from VEASAN. Jay Rude, Vice President of Race and Sports, MGM Resorts International. Again, I said it's brought to you by the Play MGM app. I don't want to gloss over that fact and just throw that out and not explain what this is. This is the MGM app where you can bet from anywhere. Your convenience. Restaurant, bet from the restaurant, bet from your room, bet from, anywhere.
Anywhere in the state of Nevada.
State of Nevada.
Or New Jersey.
Yeah, just avoid the lines is basically what we're saying.
Yeah, no, it's the greatest thing, especially if you're coming out to do a bucket list on March Madness.
Yes,
You've got to have it because it's such a sea of humanity in every single book. I mean, even they disturb you over here in your high limit little area, and I think you probably have to call security, get them out of here.
It's not what happens. It really isn't. But even at NFL Sunday, lines can be annoying. A great Sunday night game. Usually your biggest decision on Sunday nights.
This will be.
This is the Rams at the Bears, 2 division leaders. The Rams are 11-1. Best record in the NFL, as a matter of fact. They have already clinched the NFC West. The Bears are 8-4. A little hiccup against the Giants last week with Chase Daniel, but it looks like Mitch Trubisky, to use his word, he is confident, quote unquote, that he will get back in the lineup. It's a 3-point spread. The Rams are favored by 3. It's 52.5.
Yeah.
This total, with a great Bears defense and a, how can I put this, somewhat sketchy Bears offense, even with Trubisky coming back, 52.5 seems high.
It's high, yeah. I mean, it's probably about 5 points above the league average right now. But Rams are probably playing about 8 points above the league average on most of their games. So, kind of splitting the difference there. I think we are going to need Bears significantly in this game. Maybe not so much on a straight bet standpoint, but all the parlay liability coming into it. Everyone's going to want to finish that 4, 5, 6 teamer with the Rams on there, or the over. I think the over is still going to get bet, even though I believe that the value probably is on the under. You've got possibility of maybe some bad weather. I don't know what the report is at this point, but it's going to be cold.
Yeah.
It's on grass. Gurley does tend to slip and fall, even in his own place sometimes, cleats and stuff.
You know what he tends to do now? He tends to take matters into his own hands and
correct.
decide not to score. I wonder how many people, honestly, who are thinking about betting the Rams have it in their back of the heads now. Todd Gurley, who did it.
Not at this price.
Well, here's the thing. Oh, that's true. At -3 is what you're saying. That's a little too low for him to play shenanigans.
Right.
But you never know if you're betting the total, it could come into play, though. Yeah. Todd Gurley, who famously laid down at the 1 yard line against the Packers, which was the correct football move.
Absolutely.
And then last week against the Lions, maybe took it a little to an extreme on the north side of the 2-minute warning.
Deshaun Jackson little skirting around.
He said he just wanted to waste some time. So it worked out. He scored later. Rams ended up covering that game. Rams -3 at Chicago. Great point from Jay. Always check the weather this time of year, especially in a cold weather city like Chicago.
It is a hangover game too. You know, they just won the NFC West.
True.
They're in. It's done. You know, this is kind of a hangover game on the road. Bears are going to look to reestablish. I'm trying to sell myself that I'm going to be on a good side with the Bears here.
Rams, of course, do want to get the best record in the NFC. They've got that in mind as well with the Saints in their rearview mirror. It is the Rams at the Bears, flexed into Sunday night. Rams favored by 3 on the road at Soldier Field. Back on Behind the Book from Aria here in Las Vegas. It's Gil Alexander from the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Host a little show called A Numbers Game, Jay. 7 to 9 Pacific, 10 to noon Eastern.
I heard you had a very interesting guest this morning.
I did this past week. Alan Boston, Sirius XM Channel 204. Jay Rude, Vice President of Racing Sports, MGM Resorts International. Jay, Monday night, good game between the Vikings and the Seahawks. Right now, the Vikings and the Seahawks, were the playoffs to begin today, that old exercise, Seahawks would be the number 1 wild card team at 7-5. The Vikings will be right behind them as the number 2 wild card team. So big time playoff implications here. This is in Seattle. It's a 3.5 point spread. The total is 45.5. Minnesota lost to New England, didn't cover last week. Kirk Cousins did what Kirk Cousins does. Pretty good game and then 2 bad picks at the end. Redskin fans know what I'm talking about. Not exactly. And the Seahawks, they crushed the Niners. In doing so, not only did Russell Wilson throw just 17 passes and get 4 touchdown passes, but in the first half, he threw, ready for this? 4 passes, 3 for touchdowns. Wow. That was his first half against the Niners.
Did he go to Army?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Model of efficiency. What's the public view? How do they view these teams? Is Seattle, based on their recent run where they won a Super Bowl, are they public-ish, or not really?
They're fairly public. I mean, we haven't seen as many jerseys floating around the rooms that we did
sure
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
There were Seahawk jerseys everywhere 2 or 3 years ago. It's sort of toned down a little bit. They're still getting good support at the window because generally you're getting to the cashier window if you bet in Seattle over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. Minnesota, not so much. Minnesota had high hopes for the season. I think we said that a couple of times on this
show.
That.
Yeah.
They were coming off was a really pretty great season for them. The opportunity to play in their own stadium last year didn't quite get done. And between like them and Philadelphia, the wheels have basically come off. But they got an opportunity to salvage it here.
They do.
I think we are going to need Minnesota on the road. I think a lot of people are going to bet Seattle -3.5, playing good defense. Like you said, the quarterback is playing efficient. The running game is outstanding. And then that atmosphere on a Monday night.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, they're going to be raising the flag and running the horn, and it could be cold as hell in Seattle too.
And it could be rainy, as Jay said earlier.
Which plays right into their hand as far as running the ball and stuff.
Always check the weather, especially in a place like Seattle. Your task as a bookmaker is that, not your task, but it's your duty to post a line for every single game on the slate. Biggest advantage we have as sports bettors is we get to choose which games to bet on. So just because this is a standalone game on a Monday night, resist the urge. That's what I would say about this game. To me, this is one of the least bettable games, at least on the side. -3.5. I love Seattle, but I don't like the fact that I have to give a hook. In Minnesota, I don't know. If I throw, I'm a Redskin fan, so I know Kirk Cousins, good player, but I just don't trust him at the end of games. And so for me, this is a stay away.
Yeah, that's the most valuable thing that you have in your arsenal as a bettor is to be able to choose which games you want to get involved in. I have to book them all. Could be a stay away game. Could be a game where maybe you choose to bet a different market. You take Seattle on the money line if you think there's value. Maybe you wait and see what's going on in game. This is like a perfect in game. Maybe if Cousins looking good and Because if they get a lead, Seattle's going to have a tough time coming back.
I'm all about the in-game. What percentage of your handle right now, real quick, is in-game versus pre-flop, if you will?
NFL, it's probably about 8 to 10% right now.
8 to 10%, that's it, in-game?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's relatively slow.
Let's get with it. Let's start to take advantage of that opportunity.
Trust me, a lot of people are taking advantage of it. It's a tough struggle on in-game right now.
Jay Root, the Vice President of Racing Sports at MGM Resorts International. Skill Alexander from VSiN. Thanks for tuning in once again. It's Behind the Book. This week, live from Aria. Next week, from who knows where. We appreciate you watching, and good luck with all your bets this weekend.